After decades, I'm talking 60 plus years of swearing on the Holy Bible that college athletes in general, the model, the business model of college sports, that these people being paid, the athletes, in any way would jeopardize amateurism, the holy trinity, the amateurism in college sports. The NCAA's Board of Governors officially have changed course. They have now endorsed a very broad set of recommendations to allow college athletes, football and basketball and everybody else, including all the other sports, the softball, the golf. I'm sure there'll be a flood of people trying to get the racquetball team lined up for endorsements. But everyone's fair game on this, and you will be able to be compensated, amazingly, in the year 2020 for things like product endorsements, social media posts, and personal appearances. They're all fair game. And they then proceeded, the people that are involved in the NCAA, to do a victory lap. Reminded me of Cal Ripken in Baltimore when he set the record for games played. And then Cal ran around the GameStop for like an hour, and he shook hands and kissed babies and took photos and all that. That's essentially what the NCAA has done since this news came out. Ohio State president and NCAA Board of Governor chair Michael Drake, never heard of him, he puffed his chest out and called it, quote, unprecedented, is what he said. And Buckeyes athletic director Gene Smith says there will be no cap on what athletes can earn. Okay. So let us discuss the question, should the NCAA leaders be taking a bow? Because it certainly sounds, with these comments and others that I read, that they are doing just that, taking a bow. So my take, you've got Bernie Madoff, guardrails, and thumb. All right, that'll be the thumb. So let's line these things up, and we will knock them down. Now, to lead off with, and this is important, this is something that should have happened generations ago. All right? Generations. It is silliness, and I wish I could use a stronger word than that, but we are on the radio. It is silliness to give these people kudos for doing the right thing, right? When you go to a bank, okay, and you take money out of the bank or you put money in the bank, you don't get an attaboy for not robbing the bank. That's not how it works. You're not supposed to rob the bank. And so stop, all right? This is not some kind of cosmic accident. You would have to be the biggest rube in your neighborhood, and maybe you are. Maybe you are the biggest rube in your neighborhood, to think otherwise. All right, the NCAA was boxed into a corner, is what they were. They backed the wrong horse. It's one of these potato arguments that we get into, right? Tomato. You call it amateurism. I call it indentured servitude. You get your room, your tuition, and your board. And for 60 plus years, we have heard that's the way it has to be, and there's nothing you can do about it, and you're an evil person if you want it a different way. All right, think of this in terms of Bernie Madoff, who also had a birthday yesterday. I share a birthday with Bernie Madoff. How about that? The Ponzi scheme. His famous Ponzi scheme, where he was the king of Wall Street for all those years until everything came tumbling down. It's like it's been exposed. The NCAA model has been exposed. And as they say, sunlight is the best disinfectant, right? And the sunlight was the legislation in California and other states that was forcing the hand of the NCAA. The California legislation, I think it was Colorado, was another state, where the players were going to be allowed in those states to own their image and likeness. So, in other words, the jig is up. All right, the jig is up, and those laws would have circumvented the NCAA's power. So this move by the Board of Governors, while they are taking a victory lap, was done to attempt to protect what's left of the golden goose. Save the almighty TV dollars, keep the system alive in a different way, and let the athletes get paid by third parties, a.k.a. boosters, right, who run car dealerships and furniture stores and whatnot. Now, furthermore, while on the surface, this certainly does sound encouraging. I'm not going to push back on that. My belief remains, though, that the NCAA is still hell-bent on limiting the amount of money athletes can make. Now, they're saying all the right things right now, and you can get as much money as you want, and there's no cap on this. And I say, sure. Okay, I'm sure that's the case. Exactly correct there, unless it's not. Actions speak louder than words. And I am a doubting Thomas on this. You got to be a skeptic. You got to have a skeptical eye because the devil is in the details, right? The NCAA, what they're about to do is put together a new set of rules and regulations. It's more red tape, more bureaucracy. Just what the world needs, more bureaucracy. Why not? And they are going to determine, and this is the key part of this, which people are overlooking, they're going to determine what fair market value is for things like sending out a tweet or an Instagram post to endorse a restaurant. How much is that worth? What's the market value? And, what if you happen to get a deal to do a commercial to sell, Ford trucks? What's the proper amount that athlete can get? What's the fair market value for that? How much should you be allowed to keep from an appearance if you're the Notre Dame star football player, right? How much do you get? Let's say you're one of Coach K's prodigies at Duke. How much is your autograph worth if you go to an autograph show on a Saturday during the college basketball season before a game? How much is that worth? All of these guardrails will eventually be installed. And until they are installed, I'm going to reserve judgment on this, but I am going to be skeptical. Okay, so you got to read the fine print. Nobody wants to read the fine print. It's kind of like when you download an app on your phone and they have all these things you have to check off on it. You're like, all right, whatever, I want the app. So here, I'll sign away my life. I'm not going to read all that. You think I want to read 8 pages of small print on my phone? Hell no. Hell no do I want to do that. Not at all. Right? So you've got that. And the whole thing is comical, right? The whole situation is comical because you'll read the fine print and we'll see how this goes in execution. But the NCAA is going to require full disclosure of these agreements between the players and the schools. And so they want to regulate, right? They want to regulate and look out for improprieties to avoid the pay-for-play schemes. And that part is farcical. I remember when I first started in the media business in Los Angeles, and I was regaled with stories about Sam Gilbert, legendary figure in the history of Los Angeles sports. Who the hell's Sam Gilbert? If you know who Sam Gilbert is, he's probably turning over his grave right now. Sam Gilbert is the man that bankrolled the greatest college basketball dynasty of all time, UCLA basketball in the 1960s. Sam Gilbert was a construction mogul in Southern California, and he was a tremendous booster for UCLA athletics. And John Wooden and the Wizard of Westwood, who had the pyramid of success and all that, somehow left out of the pyramid of success to have a booster pay recruits to play at UCLA. Somehow that didn't make the pyramid of success, but that's going back to the 1960s. So, and that's just one famous example. But athletes have been getting pay-for-play type of deals for at least 60 years, It's just been done under the table, and now it's going to see the light of day. All right, last thing here, or will it, right? Let's look at the other side, all right? I'll play devil's advocate with this argument because I know what the other side of the aisle is saying. The other side of the aisle is saying that, listen, they're fatalists, these people, and they think that this is it. This is the death of college sports as we know it. It's amateurism is the holy grail, and they're getting rid of amateurism, and it's terrible. They're going to ruin our college sports. The little guy has no chance. No chance. Turn out the lights. The party's over. Just like that, right? Well, I'm going to push back. That's lazy. That's a lazy narrative, right? Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. There has not been a level playing field in college athletics, big-time college athletics, my entire life. So why should it be any different? The legacy schools in football and basketball, respectively. The Blue Bloods start out on third base. All right, they start out on third base, so don't give me this crap that everything's even and now you're never going to have the little school that rises on up. Stop. There's always been a privileged class. That includes schools like Notre Dame, USC, Alabama, Ohio State, Oklahoma in football. In college basketball, Duke, North Carolina, Kentucky, UCLA, schools like that start out at a competitive advantage. They have their thumb on the scale, is what they have. Okay? They have the thumb on the scale. So this doesn't change anything. In fact, this new plan, depending on the rules and regulations, would actually help the little guy. Let me explain why. If everything has to be transparent, and if they are able to actually pull that off, and I am skeptical if that's the case, I don't trust the NCAA, but let's just, for this monologue, assume that to be the case, the hypothetical. All right, so let's say that happens. It's kind of like spreading the peanut butter on more pieces of bread. Because the implication would be, and the implementation would be, that let's say if you're the starting quarterback at Alabama, your endorsement's worth X number of dollars, but if you're the backup, it's only worth this amount of money, and you could go to a different school, or maybe we'll use Clemson as a better example, right? Clemson's more of an upstart program in recent years. They were not exactly a football power for a good period of time, but the last about 10 years or so, maybe a little less than that, they have been a dominant force in college football. So back it up. If you are the backup at Clemson, you're not going to have the same value of endorsement dollars. So all these five-star quarterback recruits, if you do it for financial gain, you'd be better off, instead of being the backup at Clemson, going to a school like, say, Washington and get all the local endorsement dollars. You can be a big fish in a small pond, right, as opposed to a small fish in a pond the size of Lake Superior. So you have to decide which one you would want to be in. And plus, the other thing you've got to factor in, the shoe business. If you watch the documentary that was on HBO, The Scheme, I believe it was called, if you watch that, which has been airing, and I watched it, it was a great documentary. We did some commercials for them here on the show, but it was good. It was well done, and it was about the shoe controversy with Adidas and all that. The big corporate partners, and we're talking about Adidas, Nike, Under Armour, the shoe companies, it's in their best interest to shepherd players, to encourage players to go to these schools, because they want to have the players on every school wearing their gear, because it's better for them to sell said merchandise.